Welcome back to Decode Healthcare with Harshal. So, in part 4 of our Explainer series, we tackled the notorious placeholder X. Today, we're taking on the ultimate alphabet soup of medical coding, NEC versus NOS. By the end of this, you are never going to mix up other and unspecified ever again. Now, you might be wondering, why do so many claims get denied just for a lack of specificity? Well, relying on vague codes is practically a one-way ticket to denial city. That's exactly why nailing down the strict black and white difference between these two abbreviations is honestly the most vital skill you can develop as a coder. And we're not messing around with textbook summaries today. We're going straight to the ultimate source of truth, the official CMS ICD-10 CM guidelines for coding and reporting, specifically section I.A6. We're doing this because this rulebook completely overrides everything else. Reading the guidelines directly, that is exactly how you code with absolute confidence. All right, deep dive time. Let's start with our first major abbreviation, NEC, and see exactly how the official guidelines define it. So, section IA6 of the CMS guidelines tells us that NEC stands for Not Elsewhere Classifiable. Whether you're in the alphabetic index or the tabular list, NEC essentially means Other Specified. Basically, if a highly specific code just isn't available for a condition yet, NEC directs you to use an Other Specified code instead. Here's the absolute easiest way to remember this. Think of NEC as the book's fault. Picture a doctor holding this incredibly detailed lab report that points to a super rare condition. But when you check the ICD-10 codebook, there's no exact match. You just get this generic Other Specified Conditions bucket. The doctor did their job, the documentation is specific, but the book just hasn't caught up to medical science yet. So let's look at NEC in action. The doctor gives you great detailed documentation. You go to code it, and crickets. The exact matching code just doesn't exist. You're basically forced into that generic Other Specified category. The condition is literally not elsewhere classifiable in the current version of the book. Moving on to our next deep dive, NOS. Let's flip the specificity coin and see how NOS sets up a totally different scenario. According to the guidelines, NOS stands for Not Otherwise Specified. This is the direct equivalent of an unspecified code, and honestly, as a coder, the moment you see the word unspecified, alarm bells should be ringing in your head. Because if NEC is the book's fault, NOS is 100% the documentation's fault. This happens when the codebook actually has plenty of great, specific options, but the provider gave you a broad, lazy diagnosis. Think about someone just writing heart failure without specifying the exact type. Because that documentation is lacking detail, you're forced to map it to an unspecified code. Imagine you get a chart and it literally just says bronchitis. That single word leaves a giant question mark. Is it acute, chronic, asthmatic? The ICD-10 book actually has specific codes for all of those variations. But since the provider was vague, your hands are tied, and you have to map the diagnosis to an unspecified code. Putting them head-to-head really clears things up, right? With NEC, the doctor is super specific, but the book isn't, so you use Other Specified. With NOS, the book is loaded with options, but the doctor is being vague, so you're stuck with unspecified. If you can cement this difference in your mind, you are golden. Now for the cardinal rule, when to query. You absolutely have to know what to do in an NOS situation, because leaning on unspecified codes is going to cause massive insurance denials. The CMS guidelines actually give us a clear mandate here. They state that a joint effort between the healthcare provider and the coder is essential for complete and accurate documentation. What does that mean for you? It means you are not just a passive data entry clerk. You're an active participant in achieving clinical accuracy. Because of that rule, expert coders have a very specific workflow for vague NOS diagnoses. Instead of just lazily slapping an unspecified code on the claim and hitting submit, they pause. They hold the claim. Then they shoot off a professional clarification note to the physician to get those missing details. Only after getting that specificity do they assign the actual code. So the absolute cardinal rule here is never settle for unspecified. Take the time to query your provider. By securing exact documentation, you're protecting the revenue cycle, keeping the patient's record hyper-accurate, and flawlessly following those CMS guidelines. And that brings us to mastering the guidelines. That wraps up part 5 of our explainer on decoding NEC and NOS. If you found this helpful, definitely hit subscribe to Decode Healthcare with Harshal so you don't miss our next deep dive. Because honestly, we are just getting started. In part 6, we're going to explore what happens when you encounter brackets, parentheses, and colons. You'd be surprised, but these punctuation marks completely change how you read and interpret a code description. You definitely won't want to miss it. Catch you in the next explainer.